when you feel weighed down, if you feel resentful, if you feel like I'm stuck, that's all things around forgiveness. There's something there that we can actually explore, excavate, and then we can shift as long as the person's willing to want to do that. And so on the other side of that, what I hear from clients is I feel freer. I feel lighter. I was able to actually take the steps I needed to take.
What if the best chapter of your life hasn't even begun yet? What lies within you is the power to live brighter, bolder, and truer than ever before. So welcome to Vivatude, where caregiving, connections, and career come into balance, and where your vitality, vision, and voice shines through. Because the revolution isn't out there, it's already within you. Welcome to Vivatude.
Welcome back to Vivatude. I'm your host, Lauren Archer. Today we are talking with Brenda Reiss about the power of forgiveness and coming home to yourself. Now, Brenda, you have been sharing some fantastic stories about what happens when we are willing to look at what's going on in our own lives and to shift the story we're telling ourselves and to use some of these more spiritual principles to evolve and live life more where we can reclaim our own voice and our own power. I know you have some amazing tools on your website. Can you share with our audience how people can find you and what they can do to start engaging in this work?
Absolutely. So you can find me. My website is brendareisscoaching.com, and well, my last name is Reiss as in Sam, S as in Sam. So brendareisscoaching.com. And on that website is quite an extensive blog that I talk about anywhere from forgiveness to people pleasing to owning our voice. I do a lot of topics that I feel is underneath the umbrella of forgiveness, because forgiveness, really all forgiveness is self-forgiveness. Because that's why I keep saying coming home to ourselves, because really it's not about anybody else. We can't change them. We can't fix them, even though I've tried, you know?
Hear you there, yeah. And that's where our power is too, when we realize that, other people are going to do what other people are going to do, and our control is within us and how we respond. So yeah, very
Oh,
valuable.
absolutely. And when I realized that, especially with my ex, when I was seeing him going on with life and I was the one that was suffering, I'm like going, wait a minute. I don't have control over that, but I do have control over me. And
Mhm.
so that made this huge. And then I realized, wait a second, I'm giving away my energy. So let me pull it back. And then that changed how I looked at the world. So on my website, you'll see all those things. Plus, you'll see the podcast that I have called Forgive Yourself with Brenda Reiss. And you can find that on all the podcast platforms. And there's episodes on there as like, how do you tell if you need to forgive? And just the different things that we can do, plus guests giving different ideas and steps. I always give steps. That's something that I love myself. So I always give some sort of action with anything I do. And there's also downloads. So there's a resource page that people can get downloads for forgiveness, for reclaiming their voice, and for self forgiveness, especially. So, yeah, and then there is the quiz that you mentioned.
Yeah, tell us about that. So what is this forgiveness archetype quiz?
Yeah. So it was something that people are really loving, because you get a quite extensive report at the end about what kind of a forgiver am I, is really the term that I use. And so it's a simple quiz. It doesn't take too long, but the questions are deeper than we think. And so what it comes out with, what kind of an archetype? And I use the lover, giver, guardian, sage. I use the old Carl Jung kind of thing, the archetype. And where we can figure out, where what I give is, here are your beautiful gifts of being this archetype. And then here is also where maybe we could grow, right? And how we can do it. And I give ideas in there, but you get a really robust report at the end. And then you get a loving guidance after that.
That sounds so valuable. It's a doorway that people can enter to get a little bit more self-awareness and to dive deeper. And I would imagine that this topic resonates with people on many different levels. In your own life, as you work with clients, what are some of the most common outcomes that people can experience? Let's say they come in, they're like, I'm not sure, maybe it is forgiveness, maybe there is something that I need to let go of. I'm uncertain about this. What can people expect after doing some of this work?
Yeah, so after working with me, people will usually say, well, first off, what we do is we kind of determine ahead of time. So there's a free discovery call that they can do, right? So we determine it's like what's the story? What's happening right now? And then we can go from there as far as, yep, the work with me would be good. Or here, let me give you these resources because that's not really where you need to go. Because when you are weighed down, like we said in the beginning, when you feel weighed down, if you feel resentful, if you feel like I'm stuck, that's all things around forgiveness. There's something there that we can actually explore, excavate, and then we can shift as long as the person's willing, the word is willing, to want to do that. And so on the other side of that, what I hear from clients is I feel freer. I feel lighter. I was able to actually take the steps I needed to take. The also thing that we do in the forgiveness work is we discover the pattern. Like I discovered I had a pattern of 5 when I met with a forgiveness coach for the first time. And nobody else, no therapist, nobody had ever said it this way. And she asked me about my life. And I said, I've been married 3 times. It was 5 years, 5 years, 10 years. My work was 10 years, 20 years. And she looked at me and said, what happened to you when you were 5 years old? You
You're
have a pattern.
kidding.
She goes, you have a pattern of 5. And I
Oh my
went,
gosh.
my dad left. He left for a family with a daughter just like me, and he paid attention to her and not me. The story I made up about that was that every man I love is going to choose another woman over me. And I've had betrayal pattern through my life when I looked backwards. So that's the beauty of this forgiveness work that it takes a different angle of how to look at our lives. And so what you can get from that is you can get awareness, you can get recognition, you learn to take responsibility so that you can move forward in your life more freer, more clear, so that we can make the decisions that we're ready to make.
That sounds so powerful. And, ultimately, it is dropping into a deeper level than the surface, than what we're used to. I love that this is, it's another avenue in my work. I know that we can think we have things all figured out intellectually. And we can think that we're just at the top of our game. And what you're talking about, when there's just something inside that feels off, it can wreak havoc with our lives. So what you're doing is diving beneath the surface, tapping into the heart, looking at those invisible patterns that people are carrying around and helping to surface them so that they can clear and release. How liberating that sounds.
Yes, it is very, that's the word that is used. I feel liberated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. If you had one takeaway or one tip that you would like to leave women with as they navigate the challenges of caregiving and, career and midlife and tapping into something that's more meaningful and purposeful, what would it be?
Well, I think the first thing to become is aware. So let's just start noticing where we override ourselves, where we shrink ourselves. That's the signal. It's not the issue, it's the signal. And, I really want to leave them with a little practice. I call it returning to yourself. And it's just 5 minutes in the morning. Ask yourself, what do I need today? This is something we don't ask ourselves. What do I need today? And the other thing is, what would honoring myself look like today? Because that's where we start. We start here with ourselves, not with anybody else, with ourselves. How do I come home to me?
Beautiful. Brenda Reiss Coaching, is that your website?
Yes.
BrendaReissCoaching.com. Thank you so much for being my guest today, for sharing your wisdom, for doing your work, and being a light in the world.
Yeah. Thank you, Lauren. It was so fun to be with you.
And thank you for joining us on Vivatude. Thanks again for joining us on Vivatude. I so appreciate what Brenda brings to the table. And she mentioned something that I want to reinforce, and that is when we get to those places in our lives where we're feeling stuck, or we can just tell in our bodies something isn't right, or we're repeating the same patterns. Brenda had the courage to ask for help, to reach out, to say, maybe there's something I'm not seeing. And that's the point where courage meets the challenge and personal responsibility steps in. And it's usually those breakthrough moments when we don't know what's going on and we feel internal pain or discomfort, something our emotions, our spirit is trying to tell us. And it's not always easy to see because we have these conditioned patterns that we have grown up with. So, in closing, what I'd like to invite you to do is just take a quick moment with me. If you can, if you're in a place, close your eyes. If you're not in a place where you can close your eyes, or if you're driving, just listen and let these ideas sink in. So take a moment to scan your body from the inside out. And get a sense where in your body, where in your nervous system, you may carry some tension, maybe some resentment or some guilt over something in the past, or some energy around a relationship or something that's happening in your life. And as you feel into that, imagine that you can take it out of your body and hold it in your hand. And just get a sense of what this energy is that you've been carrying. Feel how heavy it may be. And as you do that, take a moment now to set it down, set it aside. Notice what it feels like to take this weight, this discomfort that you've been holding on to. Witness it. Pull it out of your body, set it aside. And now breathe in a sense of lightness and freedom. If you'd like, you can put your hand over your heart and give yourself a few moments of loving kindness, of forgiveness, of appreciation. That's one small practice that you can do to open the door to a little bit more freedom. I look forward to having you back. Each week, we talk about matters of the heart and soul here on Vivatude. And if you have a comment or a reflection on this, feel free to leave it in the chat. We certainly read every single comment, and we look forward to engaging with you. Until next time, may you love wider, breathe deeper, and show up with the energy that only you can bring.
And thanks for listening to Vivatude. 4 hosts, 1 each week. We help you revivitude your next chapter because purpose, passion, and prosperity isn't out there. They're already within you. Brighter, bolder, truer. Vivatude.